So in this video tutorial we are going to learn about the validation controls in .NET programming. I am Dr. C. Immaculate Mary, Associate Professor and Head, PG and Research Department of Computer Science, Sri Sharda College for Women, Autonomous, Salem 16. First of all, we'd like to know what the validation could be. And while using the client server technology, we need to check the data, whether the data is correct or not before sending the data to the server, and which could be called as an client side validation. So we usually need to ensure the data is prerequisite, useful and authenticated. Only then we can send the data to the server. .NET supports this type of client-side validation, and it provides some of the controls for this purpose, such as required field validator, compare validator, range validator, regular expression validator, custom validator, and it also supports validation summary. Before study with all these validators, we need to know some of the common properties of the validators object. And the first one is control to validate, which indicates the input control to validate. And next one is control to compare, which indicates the input control to compare. And the display specifies how the error message is to be shown. And next one is enable client script, which indicates whether the client side validation is enabled, and this enabled which enables or disables the validator, and the error message which shows the actual error message. The is valid indicates whether the value of the control is valid, and set focus, it indicates whether the focus is to be retained in the same control or not. And there is another apart from this properties, there is a validate method is also to be associated with this particular controls. This method checks the connected data entry control as well as updating the is valid property. So the first control is a required field validator, and it will check whether the data is entered by the user or not. And the control must have data, and the control in the sense it shouldn't be empty. The compare validator, which compare the value of a control with the value of another control. The next range validator, which checks with the range of values. This regular expression validator matches with the pattern of regular expressions. Custom validator control allows us to create our own custom logic to validate user data. Validation summary will list out all the errors during the validation. We will see one by one in detail. We will learn about the required field validator. This is one of the simplest controls to use. This validation control makes sure that the users have entered data into a data entry control. As far as a form is concerned, it may contain some of the data which are register number, username, password, mail ID, credit card numbers, and these data is required for the form, and it will be used further. So in that case, this box um, shouldn't be empty before we proceed to submit the form. And because of that reason, we will just connect or link this particular box with the required field validator. So the data has to be entered into the box, and the initial value property of this control has an initial value set to an empty string by default. So it has set with a string, empty string, and during validation what happens, the control raises an error message if this value does not change. We need to set some of the properties of the required field validator control. The first property is a control to validator. So we have to link with the input control with this control to validate property, so that that particular field will be taken control for the required field validator. And the second property is an error message, and this error message to be displayed if the validation fails. So we have to say whether the username cannot be empty or the password cannot be empty. So likewise that we need to give an error message, and we have to decide if there is any errored message had been entered. We need to set the focus onto the same control. So this property specifies whether the input control should receive the focus if the validation fails. Validator is a comparison validator. This validator is used to validate the value entered in one data entry control by comparing it with either a constant value or another value entered in another control. So here are some properties of the comparison validators control. One is control to validate, another one is control to compare. The first control to validate property sets the field to be validated, and control to compare property specifies the control to compare with. And as usual that we'll just type the error message if the validation fails. So when we have the comparison between two fields, we can make use of the comparison validator. While we make use of this comparison validator, we need to use the operator property to specify the type of the comparison to perform. So here are some of the possibilities. Either it could be an equal, not equal, greater than or equal, less than or equal, and also we can just check or the compares the data types between the values entered into the data entry control being validated and the data type specified by the type property. So we can use the type property. The data type can be also be compared, and the data type property can have any one of the following types, that is string, or it could be an integer, or it could be a double date or currency. And this particular form shows you how we can make use of the compare validator, and we can connect it with these two texts, that is password and confirm password, that we have to check whether both the data entered in the text boxes are similar. So if if it doesn't match, that is the password doesn't match with the confirm password, naturally the error message will appear since it has been linked with the compare validator. So password doesn't match. Validator is a range validator. So this range validator is used to check if the value entered in the data entry control is within the specified range of values, and some of the properties which could be connected with this range validator is being the control to validate. So which control is to be validated for the range data, and there will be of an error message where it specifies the error message to be displayed if the validation fails, and we can also set with the minimum value and the maximum value, since we are in need of a range validation, that we can make use of minimum and the maximum value can be set. Range validators can be useful for all kinds of ranges. For example, we can handle the temperatures by making sure that the temperature in a freezer is less than freezing. Or we can use in a situation where we need to check the number of items in the stock, or we can even find out the number of items in a purchase order, whether it is greater than zero or not. And so one simple form that had been given over here, that is the age range between 18 to 30. Suppose if you enter the data which exceeds 30, and naturally that will give you an error message connected with it. Please enter the age between 18 to 30, and since this date of birth is also linked with the range validator, so we have to enter in between this range specified. And if it is not if the data entered is not between this two dates, naturally you will be receiving the error message. So the next validator is the regular expression validator. The regular expression validator control is used to check if the value in a data entry control matches a pattern defined by a regular expression. And this may be used to match the well-known sequences of characters such as social security numbers or addresses, or it could be telephone numbers or the postal codes and so on. And this particular form which the email ID, the text box is linked with the regular expression validator, and it searches for the pattern with the @ symbol. And if you haven't included that symbol for email address, naturally that it will just give you the error message, since this error message been inked with the regular expression validator. The next validator is a custom validator, and this control allows us to create our own custom logic to validate the user data. Um, and this control can be used either on the client side validation or server side validation, and we can make use of the JavaScript or VB script functions for both these validations, and it could be supported by the Internet Explorer. And when you pass the function, it will have two arguments. One is source, giving the source control to validate, and the arguments which holds the data to validate as arguments dot value. And we need to validate the data, and we need to set arguments that is valid to true but to false otherwise. And this is the code that had been given over here in order to validate for a specific constraint. Validation summary control is used to display the summary of all validation errors on a web page in a message box. And the display of this summary can be as a list or as a bulleted list or as a single paragraph, depending on the mode that we select in the display mode. And the form given over here with the all validation summary. Let us implement the validation controls in the .NET programming. We will watch the demo video which explains this concept.